Hi, I'm Oscar Garnica, and today we are with Mr. René Furer. He is a chemist, an expert in the pharmaceutical industry, and also in the COVID testing and diagnosis. Thank you for being with us today, René.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we start, we're going to use your opinion for academic purposes, and that'll be on the record. Is that okay with you?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, great. So the first question we have, we're talking about getting vaccinated and whatnot. So my first question is, what do you think is the advantage of getting vaccinated in comparison to just getting tested?
Thanks for the question. I guess this has several aspects. So, in one way, it's for sure a health aspect, and there is not a no risk situation. And if you get vaccinated, you have maybe a tiny risk of having a reaction, but it will be slow and can be cured. And if you have a real disease, then you will have maybe a really hard treatment and have to go to intensive care unit. If you have a test, it just says you are sick or you're not sick. So you are then already sick and have to expect like really health problems. And with the vaccine, you are not getting sick. So the test is more about protecting the others, and the vaccine is protecting the others and yourself. From an economical perspective, you have to think about the tests are really expensive. Each test has some money to spend. And the vaccine is just once. Yes, you have to pay some francs, but it will be done in once. And for the environment, a vaccine you have to take 2 times. So there is not a lot of pollution of the environment. But if you have continuous testing, you produce a lot of single-use products and pollute the whole environment with it. So the advantage of vaccine has tremendous advantages, and I can just say, do it.
So economically, health-wise, and also environmentally. Okay.
Yeah.
And now, why do you think, or why would you recommend getting vaccinated against COVID?
Yeah, as I mentioned, so it has several aspects like before, and if you don't get vaccinated, in the end you have to expect to get sick, and then you have COVID and you don't know how it will end. So it's recommended really to get a vaccine, to not have the hospital to go to, can stay at home.
All right, that's reasonable. Okay, so a lot of people in the age of information are afraid, and I would like to ask you, like, how is the scientific community guaranteeing that these vaccines are safe?
So, yeah, there you have to think about vaccines. So it's like a medical treatment as well. So you have to go through a registration process, which is given from the World Health Organization or the independent government, which says what you have to do. So during development, you always have to test what you do, and you test that in the development phase, first in the laboratory, and then you go out and have groups where you test it. And for sure, there is some risks by getting a vaccine, but the risk of getting no vaccine, it seems to be pretty high, and that we noticed during development. And the clinical studies showed that it really, the side effects are pretty low compared to the advantage of a vaccine. And during the production of it, you have several control steps where you always look that the product is that what do you want in the end. And as well, if there is something happen with a vaccine on the market, you, the customer, has always contact to a doctor. So the doctor has to give the information back to the pharmaceutical company. So he has the duty to do this complaint, and the pharmaceutical have to solve the complaint in half a year, and otherwise you lose the registration of it. So the process is super strict.
Okay, so according to your opinion, it seems that it's very strict and Then our next question is in relation to the anti-vaccine movement, which is, I think it's related to fear or people being afraid of the vaccine. What do you think about that? Like, why are people afraid of vaccines?
I can totally understand in a way. It's something, you get overwhelmed by COVID, and so it's a time of uncertainty, and so this fear about everything and the uncertainty is high. But in the end, you have always to think about what is the consequence of not get vaccinated. You risk your life and the life of others. And life means as well a tiny risk. So you have to take the risk of a vaccine, which has side effects, yes, but they're pretty low. So if you get really sick by COVID, we know how that can end up. We saw the pics from Italia here and about the trauma that happened when all the cemeteries are stocked and full. So there is no comparison between getting sick by COVID or having side effects from a vaccine.
Exactly, just like it happened as well in India and Italy and Spain. Okay, what would you say to somebody who is listening to us right now and doesn't want to get vaccinated? What would you say or recommend?
Vaccine, or you risk your life and that one from your surrounding, from your loved ones, because the closer people are, the more they are in danger and in risk. So if you get sick, you will infect the loved ones and not the far ones. So get vaccinated.
Definitely agree with that. Okay, now let's talk about something a little bit different, but it's still in relation. So as of September 13th, it was mandatory here in Switzerland and as well in some European countries, just like Italy, France, Spain, to show their QR code or the vaccination certificate. Like, what do you think about that? Like, is it safe? But because some people don't want to get vaccinated, they're demonstrating against that. But some others are vaccinated already. What do you think? Is it creating a divided society, or what's your take on that?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, this is a really hard question. And we consider here that this COVID certificate, as you mentioned, can give a certain pressure as well on the society to get vaccinated, because we are in Switzerland have about 50% vaccination rate. So, and for us the question is then about, is the testing, to get a COVID certificate, you either had COVID, you are vaccinated, or you do a test like all 2 days. And as I mentioned before, the economical costs of a test are pretty high. So after 3 times testing, it's as expensive as the vaccine. You have to ask who should pay all these tests. Should the vaccinated one pay for the not vaccinated one? Or should they take the risk that they take? So in my opinion, the COVID certificate is a measure to put as well, if the testing is not for free, to put the pressure on get vaccine, because if everything is free and nada is gratis, so at the end the community will pay. So that's my point of view. I think it's fair. And yes, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you have to go every 2 days to a test, and then you can enter every restaurant as well. So it's free will.
Yeah, totally makes sense, and I agree with you. Well, I think we're done for today. Thank you so much for sharing your expert opinion on this.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to answer these nice questions.
All right.